We've got Jordan's Taylor guitar, and there is sort of one high spot. The fret is not lifting. I think it's just the fingerboards heaved a little bit in this one spot. Now I noticed there was a shim underneath the bridge, so I think what was happening is, they tightened the truss rod, got the neck fairly straight, and he uses a medium string and has a very strong right hand attack. So he just kept rising it up to get rid of the buzzing, which is what everybody does. But the problem is, this needs to be dressed. So I've already heated that nut and removed it. Well, the rest of the neck seems to be pretty good. So this was the culprit. This is a really good troubleshooting lesson because you needed sort of X amount of tension on that truss rod to resist the pull of the 13 to 56 strings. But what was happening when you tightened the truss rod is the fingerboard was kind of humping up here on the treble side. So now I'll put my fret guard on and we're going to do a fret dress end to end. Well, these are the 7x7 blanks that I send out in your fretting kits. We're just going to cut that for this Taylor guitar and tape it into place. So I did end up backing that truss rod off because we had the pull of the 13 to 56 gauge strings on there, and then got the neck as straight as possible, but we still have that high spot. A very light touch with the single cut mill file, and as you've heard me say hundreds of times before, I'm moving obliquely across the neck to cover the radius so that we get this nice and flat all the way along, and this is going to allow Jordan to, drop the action down to sort of a presentable height. I mean, it's medium strings, and he's a very strong player, but still, it's not necessary to have to fight that out. That's it. Done deal. Now we'll switch over to our scrub block. Start with our 320 and get rid of the lion's share of the tooling marks of the file. These are the blocks that I send out in your fretting kits, fret yards, sanding blocks, and that leveling file that you just saw me use. That's our 400 grit. There's our 600. Okay, next we'll get that bolt on the underside of the fingerboard. Just one hex head bolt, loosen that off. We'll get that loosened off, that hex head bolt. That's the puppy. Marking that, I can take that shim down on the underside just in this location here to pull that high spot down so that we shouldn't even have to dress the frets. And the other thing is, while I've got this off, I may as well adjust this shim as well. I'm going to skim that down a little bit on the radius disc sander. You'll see how quick we do this. One of many jobs that I do regularly. So of course this sander is controlled with a foot switch, and it allows me to kind of hang on to that sucker while I sand it, because you need all hands on deck to make sure that thing doesn't go flying when you sand it. I'm just going to turn that dust collector on. There we go. And that will suit our purposes perfectly. So that's going to change that neck angle, so we just reset the neck. When you think about what I went through on that Martin to steam the neck off, adjust the dovetail, no question about it that Taylor's whole neck system fast tracks the neck reset. So I marked with pencil, this is the base side of the fingerboard, so I'm going to kind of concentrate on that corner and drop that side down. And I think that's going to do it. Let's go back to the guitar. So this is a fingerboard shim. You can see I didn't take it down much, but with that foot-controlled radius disc sander, it gives you a lot of control and allows you to bring these down incrementally, just a few thou. So we're going to reassemble this now, and we're going to check it and see how we did. You have to allow this fastener to sort of do its job first before you really tighten those neck bolts down. So we have a machine fastener for a wood joint. But be very careful how much torque you put on there, because it is easily stripped, and that's not a place you want to be. There, once we get it engaged, we kind of stabilize it with the tongs here. Okay, let's tune this up again to its E-flat tuning and see where we stand. Here's the A. So these are all the previous pitches we had for the 7th fret fretted note and corresponding octave. Both the E string and the A string, well, E flat and A, they were both 8 cents sharp. The middle two strings were slightly flat, but I scraped away at that saddle and chased it right to the extremity of that outer edge, and now they're both in tune. I'm delighted to see that. So we don't have to make a compensated cantilevered saddle in this case. With the E flat strings, 12 to 56, that's the ticket. And of course the second string was 4 cents flat. We scraped away at that. Now it's perfect. And the first string, we scraped it back a little bit. So I scratched away at the focal point on that saddle all the way across. So this is the whole wrap up stem to stern. So we started at the bridge, if you recall. We pulled out that shim that was in there. We reduced the height of the saddle on the underside, and then scrape that intonation in all the way across. Now for these 13 to 56 strings tuned a half step down to E flat, that bridge we managed to actually squeak out perfect intonation without changing the saddle. The other thing, of course, we took the neck off and tilted it back. We also sanded that shim on the underside of the fingerboard to sort of get rid of that bit of a hump there on the bass side, and that seemed to take care of it. Of course, we dressed the frets end to end. We found those trouble spots, recrowned, buffed, polished, and that's done. These are the final values on that compensated nut. Once again, E-flat tuning, 13 to 56. Now, I had talked to the customer about maybe switching over to EJ19s, which are a bluegrass string, regular light top, and then the medium bass strings, but after watching Jordan play, I thought, man, this guy, he digs in pretty good. And the fact that we're tuning down a half step, he will not be fighting with this guitar to play it. So I decided to stick with those 13 to 56 strings. That's what he's used to. Popular string, he can get them anywhere, EJ17s. So here we are.